Hello, my name is Jenny Robinson, and I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm going to talk about the instrument that I play in the Akron Symphony Orchestra. As you probably guessed, this instrument is called the flute. Before I say anything else, I'd like to play something for you. You might recognize this one. That tune was called Into the Unknown from the 2019 animated film Frozen 2. So here's a little bit about me. I started playing the flute in the 5th grade through my school band program. I played all through middle school and high school. I was a member of the concert band and the marching band, and I was a member of extracurricular youth orchestras such as the Akron Youth Symphony and the Cleveland Youth Orchestra. After high school, I went on to music college in London, England, and got my music degree. From there, I went to San Francisco, California, and got my master's degree in music. I've been playing professionally for 15 years now, but I've had the privilege to be a member of the Akron Symphony for 5 years. I play the flute in the Akron Symphony, and I also play an instrument called the piccolo, which I'll talk with you more about later. You probably know this already, but it's always good to review. There are 4 groups or families of instruments: the strings, the woodwinds, the brass, and the percussion. The flute is a member of the woodwind family. Woodwind instruments produce their sound by the use of air or wind. The other 3 instruments in the woodwind family are the oboe, the clarinet, and the bassoon. If you've seen these other woodwind instruments before, you'll notice 2 main things that are different about the flute. First and foremost, it's held horizontally, like the horizon, as opposed to vertically, like the oboe, the clarinet, and the bassoon. So why is it held this way? Well, that brings me to the second difference. You'll notice that the flute doesn't have a reed like the other instruments do. You may ask, what is a reed? A reed is a strip of material that the other instruments such as the oboe, clarinet, and bassoon require to produce the sound. So they can be made from different things such as cane or synthetic components. The clarinet uses a single reed that vibrates against the mouthpiece to create the sound. The oboe and the bassoon use a double reed. So that double reed is two reeds put together that vibrate against each other and produce the sound. So later on, my reed playing colleagues will talk with you more about their reed instruments. So you may wonder, how do you play the flute? Well, I produce my sound by blowing across, not directly into, the head joint. Because only some of my air goes into the instrument, the rest of the air goes out into the room. So for this reason, the flute requires a lot of air to play it. After the air travels down the head joint, it then goes through the rest of the instrument. So that's a long way to go to produce the sound, and another reason why it requires a lot of air. And then to change the note to make different notes, I press the keys down. So after all that, I fine-tune the position of my lips to make sure the notes come out not too high, not too low, but just right. The flute is the oldest known wind instrument. Flutes have been found dating back some 40,000 years in the area that is known today as Germany. The flute you see now looks very different from earlier flutes, such as those in the 17th century Baroque era. A key difference, so to speak, is that early flutes did not have keys. They only had holes to place your fingers to change the notes. If any of you play the recorder, the Baroque flute looked similar to the holes on the recorder. See, there's no keys, there's just open holes to change the notes. I'm not going to try to play this thing because it's not going to be very good. So later on, just a few keys were added. About the middle of the 18th century, they added the pinky key and the thumb key. And then after that, all the keys were added. So this made the instrument more in tune, which is always good. And then after that, they changed the spacing of these holes and keys, and that made the instrument even more in tune. So the flutes right now is much improved from back in the day. Another difference is the material of the flute. Baroque flutes were made of wood. Today's flutes are usually made of metal. They can be made from several different types of metal, such as silver, gold, platinum, nickel, or even a mix of a couple different kinds of metal. This allows for a different kind of sound. People actually choose the material of their flutes based on what kind of sound they're looking for. Early flutes also came in just one piece. Today's flutes come in 3 pieces. They are the head joint, the body, and the foot joint. So earlier flutes didn't have the foot joint, and the purpose of the foot joint is that several notes were added. The longer the instrument, the lower the sound. So you can play more notes and lower notes with the addition of the foot joint and these extra keys. Before, the flute only went up to this note. Down to this note, I should say. Now I can go. So that's pretty significant in the world of flutists. But as you can hear, overall, the flute's pretty high. It is actually the highest of all the woodwind instruments, with one exception. Excuse me one second. Oh, here it is. Apologies, I actually lost my piccolo. It's so small. I thought it was across the room, but it's right on my music stand. So, speaking of little, the piccolo, the word piccolo means small in Italian. And as you can see, it's pretty small, so hopefully don't lose it like I just did. So, in general, the smaller the instrument, the higher the sound. So that means the bigger the instrument, the lower the sound. This is called an alto flute. The alto flute is much lower than the standard flute that's in the key of C. The alto flute is in the key of G, so it's several notes lower than the standard C flute. This one has a curved head joint because it can be a bit cumbersome to hold, but for those that have been gifted with longer arms, they also make straight head joint ones. So now that I found my piccolo, I'd like to play one more thing for you. I just want to say it's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope you have a fantastic year.